A scramble for flights as Taiwan limits the number of travelers to the country. A show of support for the fishing industry hit hard by a ban from China. The president promises her support. Detroit marks 40 years since the murder of Vincent Chin against the backdrop of rising anti-Asian hate crimes. And we visit the Chinese herb gardens that are blossoming in Taiwan. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. Taiwan this week reduced quarantine for people arriving back in Taiwan from 7 days to 3, but at the same time, it capped the number of passengers entering Taiwan each week at 25,000. Passengers complain this has led to a scramble to find air tickets to come home, as Louise Watt reports.
More people want to travel to Taiwan now that they only have to spend 3 days in quarantine rather than 7. But with that change comes another rule: a limit on the number of passengers allowed into the country. Taiwanese are finding there are fewer tickets to go around, and prices are up to 8 times what they were.
现在只能买商务舱，一下子变成4000多块澳币的，要将近8、9万的台币，我根本就负担不起。
Taiwan has set an initial limit of 25,000 passengers a week. It says this is to avoid hospitals being overwhelmed and to make sure they have enough airport staff to test people for COVID on arrival. Other countries have struggled to deal with a surge in traveller numbers. In Britain and Canada, passengers have had to face long waits and cancellations due to staff shortages. So far, Taiwanese complaints centre on the scramble for tickets because of the weekly cap on passengers. They want to be prioritised over other nationalities.
那假如未来有做一些人数调整，当然是会考虑说，可能是以本国籍的为优先这样的一个原则啦哈。不过这个总量管制当初的人数，我们也是跟交通部以及相关的一些部会单位一起讨论出来的哈。
Passengers in Taiwan and elsewhere are hoping they won't have to deal with much more travel pain, especially as the summer season approaches. Damon Lin and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
To learn more about Taiwan's latest COVID-19 developments, TaiwanPlus reporter Bing Wang spoke to Michael C. Liu, the Dean of the University of California, Berkeley School of Public Health.
The Taiwanese government is starting its 3+4 day quarantine rule for incoming travelers. Do you think this is the right time to implement this rule? Is it too late or is it too early for this rule?
I think for a traveler who's doubly vaccinated, doubly boosted, has a negative PCR test pre-board, and undergo a 3-day quarantine followed by 4 days of self-monitoring with 1 or more negative rapid antigen tests. I don't think that the rule needs to be more or less strict. I think that the risk of that person really introducing an infection to Taiwan is going to be very low. And that's why I think this rule is actually very much a science-based decision. It's consistent with Taiwan's new policy, the new Taiwan model for living with COVID, and certainly help promote those social and economic activities as well as international exchange while being able to keep the Taiwanese people safe.
Long COVID has been a serious concern for a lot of people that are recovering from COVID. So, how serious is long COVID?
Most people with COVID have symptoms that last no more than 2 weeks. But when you have symptoms that persist for more than 2 months or more, that becomes long COVID or what we call post-COVID syndrome. Certainly some of the most common symptoms include fatigue, shortness of breath, and then some type of cognitive impairment, what some of us can describe as this brain fog. You just cannot think or remember things as well. But the long COVID could actually affect multiple organs and systems.
Taiwan just discovered the new Omicron variants, BA4 and BA5. Do you think we should be worried about the new variants?
In the United States, that BA4, BA5 are accounting for about 21% of the new cases. And I heard that just yesterday, Taiwan detected 26 new cases of BA4, BA5 through border control. So that's certainly something that we have to stay very vigilant about. Based on very limited data, we don't think that BA4, BA5 are going to cause more severe diseases compared to BA1 and BA2. But based on the way it's spreading so fast in Europe and in the US, we do think that it's going to be very contagious. And anytime you have a contagious infection, there's always higher chances for increased hospitalization, ICU, as well as deaths.
President Tsai Ing-wen has visited fish farmers in southern Taiwan in a show of support. China banned imports of Taiwan grouper fish last week. 90% of Taiwan's grouper exports last year went to China, and fish farmers could lose millions because of the ban. During Friday's visit to fish farmers in Kaohsiung, Tsai said Taiwan will work to find replacement markets, naming the US, New Zealand, and Canada. She also urged Taiwanese people to buy more locally raised grouper. Taiwan's military is closely monitoring the situation after China launched its third aircraft carrier in Shanghai on Friday. The domestically designed and produced warship, named Fujian, is seen as a significant step in a modernization of China's military. Chinese state media reports say it has a full-length flight deck and catapult launch system. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense on Friday told TaiwanPlus it would use innovative asymmetric thinking to pursue a military strategy of defense and deterrence. China views Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory and regularly threatens to take the country by force. That's despite the fact that the Chinese Communist Party has never ruled Taiwan. Taiwan can produce 72 armored vehicles each year, the country's military has said. The Armaments Bureau plant in the central county of Nantou gave a rare look at the production of the CM-34 Clouded Leopards on Thursday. The 8-wheeled armored vehicle is equipped with an Mk-44 Bushmaster 30mm chain gun and has an effective firing range of 3 kilometers. It has a maximum speed of 100 kilometers per hour. These domestically produced vehicles are part of Taiwan's drive to upgrade its military in a face of increasing threats from neighboring China.
全世界能够研发、生产、制造独立出来的国家并没有几个，而中华民国就是其中的一个。
An annual U.S.-led military summit has wrapped up in Japan. Tokyo hosted the Pacific Amphibious Leaders Symposium for the first time since the Security Forum was founded in 2015. Nearly 70 military personnel from 18 countries took part in the event, meant to boost amphibious military capabilities. Taiwan was invited as an observer.
And I am sure that verse 22 disseminates a powerful message that we do not allow unilateral changes to the status quo by force, and will maintain a rule-based order in the Indo-Pacific.
Taiwan has condemned Russian President Vladimir Putin's reference to the country as being part of China.
我们对于任何发表贬损中华民国以及我们国家主权的不实的表述呢，我们都予以严厉的谴责。我们在这边再一次的严正的重申，中华民国台湾跟中华人民共和国是互不隶属的，只有经过台湾人民自由选举出来的政府，才能够在国际间代表台湾人民。
The Foreign Ministry lodged its protest with Russian authorities through diplomatic channels. The comments from Putin came Wednesday during talks with China's President Xi Jinping. Chinese state broadcaster CCTV said the Russian leader had spoken about his country's opposition to external interference into China's internal affairs, including Xinjiang, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. That's despite the fact that Taiwan is governed separately from China. The Kremlin's readout of the talks does not include the reference to Taiwan as an internal Chinese affair. 2 U.S. senators have introduced a bill meant to significantly boost Washington's military and diplomatic support for Taiwan. The bill would provide $4.5 billion in military financing for Taiwan over the next 4 years and officially designate Taiwan as a major non-NATO ally of the U.S. It would also require the U.S. president to sanction top Chinese officials if Beijing carries out aggressive actions against Taiwan. The bill still needs congressional approval. A spokesperson for Taiwan's foreign ministry told TaiwanPlus that the government will be watching the bill's progress closely. Democrat Bob Menendez and Republican Lindsey Graham are the bill's 2 sponsors. They led a delegation of U.S. politicians to Taipei in April this year. This week, the American city of Detroit is marking 40 years since a brutal hate crime that traumatized and galvanized a generation of Asian Americans. Reinhold Kilpatrick has the story.
4 decades after he was murdered in Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City is paying tribute to Chinese-American Vincent Chin. The 27-year-old draftsman was beaten to death by 2 white auto workers on the night of his bachelor party in June 1982. The men blamed the success of the Japanese auto industry for the loss of American jobs and assumed Chin was Japanese, attacking him with a baseball bat. Neither man served any jail time.
That was a wake-up call because everybody felt that the terrible killing of Vincent Chin could have happened to anybody. It was, very sadly and tragically, Vincent, who was killed at a time of intense anti-Asian hate, directed at Japan then, and he was Chinese American, and it didn't matter. Just all of that hate against Asians then. And that's very similar to what we're going through today.
Detroit has devoted 4 days to commemorate Chin, at a time when white nationalist hate groups are on the rise and anti-Asian hate crimes have skyrocketed, spurred on by the COVID-19 pandemic and America's geopolitical rivalry with China. Anti-Asian hate crimes increased 224% last year, according to a study by the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism.
And today, what we see is almost a repetition of history, where Asian Americans are getting blamed, beaten, killed, mass killings like in Atlanta or Indianapolis, and part of the hate violence that's happening to so many Americans today. And so what we're saying in these 4 days of remembering what happened to Vincent Chin, the injustice, but the fight for justice, that is what we're trying to remember. That's what's important today.
The hatred that ended Vincent Chin's life 40 years ago has not died. But as a new generation confronts this trauma, neither has the spirit of those fighting for justice. Reinhold Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has thanked the organizers of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar for listing Taiwan as its own country.
那外交部，我们对于凯达这个世界杯足球赛的这个筹办单位，他们正视我国球迷的这个权益，并且很迅速的回应我方的相关诉求。对于这样的一个善意呢，外交部我们表达感谢跟肯定。
Originally, the ID cards for Taiwan fans had said Taiwan, province of China. That's despite the fact that Taiwan has never been governed by the People's Republic of China. On Thursday, World Cup organizers removed the reference to China and added Taiwan's flag. It was a rare recognition for the country, which is often forced to participate in international events using a name other than Taiwan. Chinese medicine is widely practiced not just in China, but also throughout East Asia. However, it has developed a reputation for relying on hard-to-source exotic ingredients. Medicine suppliers in Taiwan are now working to build their own herb gardens to ensure their products are sustainable and not reliant on foreign imports. TaiwanPlus reporter Pichi Zhang has more.
这是流速石斛，你看这几个药用植物。
Zhuang Wuzhang, president of pharmaceutical company Shuntian, inspects one of his company's herb gardens in Nantou County, central Taiwan. This unassuming location might not be where you'd expect to find the latest medical innovations, But among the herbs grown here are some of the key ingredients for Taiwan's popular Chinese medicine treatment for COVID-19. Manufacturers in the industry have traditionally relied on imports from China to make their medicines.
这黄芩，那一般来讲，这个药材都是在华中地区，大家比较不容易在台湾看到。
The pandemic has shown countries around the world the dangers of relying too heavily on imports. And now Shuntian is moving toward becoming self-sufficient. The Nantou Garden is the first step in this plan.
以石斛来说，那石斛兰科植物其实都是华盛顿公约里面设定的濒危的物种，考量的就是一个永续发展的情况。
More than 40 kinds of herbs can be found in the garden. All of them are grown organically. The lack of pesticides means the garden is also home to a huge variety of wildlife.
有机种植的指价准则是非常重要，就是我们对环境要友善。那对这个在这个地区里面生长，不管是人，那或者是动物、植物，大家都有公平生长的机会。
The same principle is used at the public educational herb garden in New Taipei City. Here, even the plain-looking grass by the roadside is actually a type of medicinal herb. For millions of people around the world, traditional medicine is nothing new. But COVID-19 has revived interest in these treatments. The garden's curator, Chen says Taiwan could play a larger role in providing these herbal medicines going forward.
台湾本身的气候是相当的多样的，然后物种资源也是非常的丰富，所以其实台湾可以建立一个研发基地，串联我们的中医的临床研究到实验室的一些细胞、动物或者是成分的分析。
Among the innovations Taiwanese researchers have developed, a new cure for dry eye syndrome using the Dendrobium orchid. There are now plans to turn it into a health food that is easier to consume than traditional herbal concoctions.
我们能够永续经营下去，那就要去做到它的价值应用，找到它先民使用新的发展机会。那它又是一个药食同源可以发展的项目，我们就去发展它整个使用上有不同的应用方式，而不是以前传统中医师在用的药材的使用方式。
In Chinese medicine, Taiwan has inherited a tradition dating back thousands of years. But it is through the modern spirit of innovation and scientific endeavour that the country's practitioners, researchers and pharmaceutical companies are hoping to leave their own mark on the industry. Alex Chen, Biqi Zhuang, Ed Moon and Phil Wang for TaiwanPlus.
You can watch the whole series, Fighting COVID-19 with Herbs, everywhere TaiwanPlus is available. Coming up, a sign of the times, why Taipei is changing the timing of its red lights at intersections.
So this is a Yinwei Da Hong Tiao Red Coral Snapper. Good job. Good job.
If you are in Green Island, you have to come diving here. It is amazing. We're going to go see the oldest coral in the world, over 1,400 years old.
Bubble tea has become such a big hit in the US that when the bubble tea crisis happened back in 2021, the country was hit hard. Did you know that these chewy tapioca bowls are actually from Taiwan? That's right, it's also where the first bubble tea was born. We started to realize that there's a host of toppings we could add to our teas. If you have ever been to a bubble tea shop, you might have heard something like 无糖少冰去冰半糖. But what does that mean exactly?
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. The leaders of France, Germany and Italy have expressed their support for Ukraine joining the European Union on a visit to the capital, Kyiv. The joint visit by heads of leading EU member states is one of the most symbolic expressions of European support for Ukraine since Russia invaded nearly 4 months ago. Romania's president also attended the meetings in Kyiv. In an evening address, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky described the day as historic.
Україна відчула підтримку одразу 4 потужних європейських держав, зокрема підтримку нашого руху в Європейський Союз, Італія, Румунія, Франція, Німеччина з нами. Усі 4 лідерів, пан Драгі, пан Йоханніс, пан Макрон, пан Шольц, підтримують кандидатство для України.
North Korea has reported an epidemic of an unidentified disease that health experts say could be typhoid or cholera. The outbreak comes on top of a COVID-19 wave that's already putting the country's healthcare system under strain. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered quarantine measures in response. State TV showed him preparing medicine to be sent to the western city of Haeju, the center of the outbreak. Violent protests have erupted in parts of India over Prime Minister Narendra Modi's new army recruitment plan. Thousands of youth in several states set trains and cars on fire, blocked highways, and attacked police. The Modi government said this week that 3/4 of new recruits would only serve 4 years in armed forces. Previously, recruits would expect to serve up to 17 years. The plan aims to reduce the average age of personnel and save pension costs. Young people are worried they may not find work after their service. Youth unemployment in India stood at over 25% last year. Taipei is reducing the waiting time at traffic lights as the city enters the hot and humid summer season. Wait times have been cut by an average of 30 seconds at more than 750 intersections from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. until September 1st. The move aims to keep pedestrians and motorcyclists from sweltering as they wait for the lights to change. Summer temperatures in Taipei often break 30 degrees Celsius with high levels of humidity. When the Spanish first came to Taiwan in the 17th century, they built a fort on Heping Island in the northern port of Keelung. Today, we take you to the fort of San Salvador to see how people from all over the world came together on the island.
西班牙在亚洲的势力范围从班达群岛至摩鹿加群岛的南部开始，一路北上到马尼拉，最后延伸到台湾。和平岛成为西班牙在亚洲防护网中最北端的力量，而他们的旗帜也在和平岛上飘扬16个年头。当西班牙人在和平岛举行占领仪式后，随即在岛上建立主要赛，称作圣萨尔瓦多。
西班牙人在1626年5月的时候，从吕宋北端的嘎嘎亚这个地方航向北台湾，很快的就发现了基隆港，占领了和平岛。那占领和平岛没多久，他们就盖了2个堡垒，一个叫san Salvador，另外一个就是在附近的一个小山丘盖了一个灵堡。
据西班牙人来到和平岛400年后，一群西班牙人再次回到了这里。他们分别是在台湾已经生活20多年的包小欧教授，以及由 CSIC 的 Maria 教授带领的西班牙考古团队。
In 2011, I had the chance to start this project in the northern part of Taiwan, in Hepingtao. We were able to study the reaction of the local peoples and also the impact that the Spanish had on these local populations.
Estoy contento que al menos todos los esfuerzos de aquellos años han llevado a un proceso de excavación iniciado en el año 2011, en el cual yo también estuve involucrado para organizar los permisos y para conseguir el proyecto de investigación.
圣萨尔瓦多城位于和平岛西南角，部分城区沉埋在今天台湾国际造船公司1号船坞西侧西装工厂下方。在日治时期基隆主港制图谱中，可清楚看到当时和平岛存在着承载角的地名。西班牙占领北台湾时期的防御工事是由军事工程师伯伦负责，依循文艺复兴时期的风格建造。 建材方面，在会计师账簿可见西班牙人占领和平岛初期，由汉人供应建材石灰，且为了建造圣萨尔瓦多城和其他要塞，从马尼拉派遣许多华人石匠、砖瓦工、锯工和木匠前来建造。后期则是直接取用淡水河南岸观音山的大石块。为了增加多方位射击角度，配合火炮、火绳枪等武器的运用，伯伦为圣萨尔瓦多城设计了冷堡，控制基隆港湾船只的出入。
Colonies that have people from all other continents, but for the first time we have all continents, including the largest continent in the world, which is Australasia, represented there in our small site, archaeological site in 和平岛。
从历史文献中，我们可以发现，西班牙占领和平岛前，即有中国汉人、日本人来到这里进行贸易。西班牙占领北台湾时期，不仅有西班牙帆船、华人舢板、日本走私船等船只在此汇集，这些船只也从不同地方载运商品、人员来到和平岛，在圣萨尔瓦多城周边形成一个小型联合国。
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. Finally, today we leave you with images of Ladies' Day in the UK. In this event, women must wear a charming hat with a base of at least 4 inches in diameter. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.